Good day and welcome to SCO BRICS Insight, where we bring you the latest news, information and analysis on what's really going on in the world of the BRICS. Now, today I want to talk about gas transit from Russia to Europe, particularly pipeline gas. Now, there's no longer any uncertainty regarding the future of the Ukrainian gas transportation system by the end of 2024. When the current 5-year transit contract expires, it's unlikely that the contract will be renewed given the relationship between the two. However, this doesn't mean that transit will cease entirely. Gas continue to be pumped without a contract, well, according to mutual agreement upon request with the participation of a European intermediary. However, the evolving military and political situation suggests that a more complete severance of relations between Kiev and Moscow are taking place. Now, the Turkish oil and gas company, TBNG, is already preparing to intercept the volumes of Russian gas currently supplied through the Ukraine transit system to themselves. Now, according to the head of the Turkish oil and gas company, Sinan Furat, currently 48% of Russian pipeline gas for European needs goes through the Ukraine and 52% through Turkey. So Turkey has the capacity. Now, if the Ukrainian route is completely stopped, then all gas from blue fuel will go through the Turkish gas transportation system. And it's likely that Moscow will accept this outcome. Now, the decision to stop the Ukrainian transit is a joint one. For Ukraine, it's a political one, trade with the aggressor, while for Russia, it's a military political one. The latter is open to interpretation. Now, the cessation of gas transit through Ukraine is consistent with the logic of the recent attacks by Russia on the Ukrainian energy infrastructure. It appears that Moscow's accepted the inevitable degradation of the Ukrainian territories during the current conflict, even those territories that it now considers its own. Now, this is the logic of the war of attrition, which can no longer be waged with white gloves on. Now, the cessation of operation of the Ukrainian gas transportation system is one of the key components of the impending collapse of the Ukrainian energy system, and as part of that, the Ukrainian economy as a whole. Without the input of Russian gas, the system will not be able to actually function. The amount of gas produced in Ukraine is not sufficient to maintain the pressure required in the pipeline system. Consequently, the operation of the gas distribution network, which is linked with the large diameter pipes into a single distribution system, depends on the operation of the gas transit main pipelines. This means that there will inevitably be interruptions in the supply of gas to the end consumer, mainly in rural areas, and more importantly, to the gas thermal power plants. Now, the latter represent one of the few remaining shunting capacities after the liquidation of the hydroelectric plants and the coal-fired thermal power plants, which enable the Ukrainian energy system to be balanced to some extent during the peak load hours. Now, the destabilization of Ukraine's energy system has been identified as a key priority, while Gazprom's losses are not considered a significant factor, and further, they're not actually that significant. Furthermore, these losses have already been minimized. Based on the current supply dynamics, 20 to 25 billion cubic meters of gas could be supplied to the European Union in 2024. That's a small volume compared to the peak supplies pre-2022 of 170 billion cubic meters a year. Now, the losses are relatively small for the Ukraine too, in proportion. It gets between 1.5 and 2 billion from its transit, which was previously 4.5 to 5 billion. And that's despite the fact that 70% of this amount is spent on maintaining the decrepit system in a viable condition. Now, if you take that money into account, it's actually a minor contribution when you consider the amount of aid from the EU and the US, which is funding not only the Ukraine army, but the whole state apparatus. So it means that the cessation of transit will be presented as a major victory for the Ukraine, but actually it doesn't mean that much. Now, switching the transit flow to Turkey also aligns with Russia's long-term interests. A close ally like Turkey needs to be kept on side. The different interests of Moscow and Ankara, coupled with the inevitable clash in the Middle East and Central Asia, means they need to have implementation of robust safeguards to prevent differences of opinion leading to open confrontations. Now, it's important to note that Turkey is a NATO country with the second largest military in the bloc after the United States. And the only way to work with them is through economic cooperation and the implementation of large infrastructure projects. Now, the construction of the Akkuyu nuclear power plant and the stable tourist flow from Russia has pretty much worked, and that's complemented by the creation of a gas hub in Thrace. This was announced by President Putin last year. Now, the gas hub will require some investments in infrastructure, including the construction of a new energy bridge between Russia and the Turkish gas transport system along the Black Sea. However, some of this infrastructure has already been constructed as part of the unfinished and cancelled South Stream project, which means that the cost, although large, will be quite acceptable. Now, a common gas project that connects Russia and Turkey even more closely increases their degree of interdependence. And this will allow Russia to avoid an escalation or a deterioration of relationships with Ankara and keep them to a minimum. And, it means that they're going to be economically dependent on each other. The project could also influence Turkey's foreign policy position in the face of the new geopolitical realities, and leading to a more conciliatory approach by them than certain of the European other NATO members. Now, the recent strikes by the Russian armed forces on the gas storage facilities in western Ukraine are a clear signal to Europe that if the Ukrainian gas transportation system stops pumping Russian gas, neither the system itself or its most valuable component, the underground gas storage facilities, will be available to anybody. A complete cessation of Russian supplies and the inability to use the gas storage facilities in western Ukraine will have a significant impact on the European energy market. Their energy transition is not yet complete. The new system of contract supplies of LNG are not quite in place, and the complete cessation of Russian consumption of Russian gas announced for 2027 is still some way off. Now, in this context, the stopping of Ukraine transit will be an additional and quite noticeable blow for the European energy system. Now, this will occur during periods of elections in the various EU countries, and it might actually help to change things, particularly as inflation has affected them. Now, a conflict on the energy front by Russia is just as effective as one on the ground. Just like the movement of troops, it reformats the geopolitical reality. So, by Russia destroying the transit route is the start of the birth of something new. And that means that Russia will be able to start afresh and not worrying. Okay. Now, I'm glad you've enjoyed this. I hope you've enjoyed this. Do like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you.